regarding the specific resolutions prior to the adoption of them. Anyone wishing to make a comment? Seeing no one? We'll close that portion of it. 8-181, resolution certifying that all members of the governing body have reviewed at a minimum general comments and recommendations sections of the fiscal year 2009 annual budget, or annual audit, sorry. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any comments?
Are we allowed to introduce K's communication into this, so that it's for everybody?
Yes, the Kay has granted authority to any of her fellow members of the council to execute the document on her behalf. Has also acknowledged her approval, so that will be sufficient. A formal power of attorney will not be necessary.
Okay. Comments? Roll call, please.
Councilman Murray?
Yes.
Councilman Hauser?
Yes.
Councilman Dassing?
Yes.
Councilman Slattery? Councilman Norton?
Yes.
Councilman Piazza?
Yes.
Is that something, since he wasn't part of?
He is a member of the
budget
board, he's a member of the
process?
council now, so he should certify, as part of the full council needs to certify, so Mr. Piazza should participate. He is voting as of this moment.
No, I understand that.
Right. So, yes.
I just asked the question, I said, is this something because he was not part of the budget process?
I will abstain.
Is that, no,
No,
I'm not saying
no.
that you have to do that, I'm just
Okay.
saying.
No, the full,
I just
it needs
asked the
approval,
question.
right. No, it needs the approval of the full council at this time, so there's no need for him to abstain.
No, I didn't, and that's
No,
not what I was
no.
asking, I just asked for clarification
Right.
since he wasn't part of the process, whether in fact he was obligated to
Yeah.
sign off on it.
Well, I think just to clarify also, that's one of the reasons that we had Mr. Piazza sworn in last week, so he could get all the documents and read heavily over the
So we could
weekend.
vote, right,
So he has, so we could say that he has read it.
part of the full council.
Right. Okay, roll call, please.
We did.
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Sorry, I'm on antibiotic for 3 days, so I'm a little pushing it. 8-182, resolution approving the corrective action plan for the fiscal year 2009 audit report. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Any comments, questions?
Yes, I do. If you bear with me with this one.
So this is addressed to the auditor.
This is the corrective action plan for the audit, correct? My question, after reviewing the 2009 audit, general comments, recommendations, and corrective action plan, I do have a question. Based on the information I just mentioned, am I to understand that the Borough of Caldwell does not currently, nor has it previously had in place a proper accounting and reporting system, including maintaining a general ledger or fixed asset tracking, has not been performing proper reconciliations or analysis of several key accounts, including expense reports and payrolls, and currently has a few outside offices which do not properly track or record cash transactions? Also, the prior year audit of 2008 reveals that at least the general ledger and asset tracking issues were disclosed and apparently ignored. Considering that these are both requirements by the Division of the Local Government Services since 1987, I would like it if somebody can explain why these issues even exist.
Hello, Mr. Piazza, my name is Heidi Wall, I'm the auditor for the borough.
Okay?
And I will go through the fixed assets and the general ledger. You're right, they were not in place in 2008 or 2009. Just to let you know, we were appointed as the auditors for 2009, so
Okay.
for the first year. It is a good control, it has been in place. I think part of it was that the personnel that was here before Marge was appointed as the CFO, they just didn't have the knowledge or the understanding how to prepare a general ledger.
Okay.
So I think with Marge in place, she has the necessary understanding. So that will be put into place.
Okay, but this is, I mean, according to this is supposed to have been in place since 1987.
I mean, there may have been years in the past where it was in place. I don't know how long it's
Okay.
been, just for the last several years. I know that that has been in place, but I'm not sure whether at some point in time it was or not.
Okay.
Well, I can add to that, because I had a similar concern when I first started reading through some of these documents last year. The fixed asset issue, as an example, has been an issue for several years. So it's gone, I don't know if it's 10 years, but it's at least several years.
Okay.
The fixed assets, I mean, generally in a smaller community, I'm not saying it's right, but a lot of times we find that's a pretty common recommendation, because a lot of times there isn't perhaps either the funds or the personnel to maintain that. Since there has been one in place for as long as, at least for the last several years, you would need to probably hire like an appraisal company to come out and do a full inventory of the borough's records, and then perhaps somebody could maintain it in town. That would be how that would be resolved.
Okay.
Doug, if I could, to give my insight on your questions. I too, as Richard pointed out, I sat out on the other side of this dais a couple of years back and went through the audit, and it was a recurring situation, a lot of these issues that you pointed out. And to Heidi's point of what we had as far as prior personnel, and the limitations put on us, even as at the finance committee, we started last year, starting to try to address some of the issues. But again, those limitations got in the way. This year, we're taking what I believe, and I said at the last meeting, brought in new personnel to address a lot of these issues. Marge being the CFO now, and we just touched base on this a couple minutes ago at a prior finance meeting, that in hopes by year end 2010 for budget year 2011, that we'll have a lot of cleanup done, a lot of new processes in place.
Okay.
What
But
would be
again,
the estimated cost of a fixed asset?
Depending on which company, anywhere from like 5 to 10, depending on how many assets you
$5,000
have.
to
$5,000 to $10,000, yes.
But let me finish if I may. So I'm confident in moving forward for 2011. That, like I said, with everything that we have in place, a lot of the issues and a lot of the questions that you raised that have been raised year in and year out over the last couple audits, and please go back and you'll see the trail that I'm
Okay.
talking about. As far as 87, I can't answer what was not done for whatever reasons. But I'm, again, as the head of the chairman for the finance committee, I'm comfortable and I'm looking forward to, working with Marge and Paul and getting a lot of these situations correct.
Okay, good, because this happens to be something I know a lot about.
Doug, if I could just add to that, that's one of the reasons I've gotten involved. And I don't mean to set the bar too low for Marge, because I have high expectations for Marge, but I think, unfortunately, it would take quite an effort, quite a bit of staffing, quite a bit of money in order to try to tackle all these. And frankly, I'm not even sure now, as of August 28th, that all the issues that have been addressed in the audit can be resolved by the end of the year. So I don't want to create any false expectations. I think the key thing is, as Joe has just touched on, we've got some, I believe, very good and qualified people in place now. We've made some changes that we felt were necessary, and we can start moving forward to kind of start ticking these off. But again, I don't want to set the bar too low, Marge. I have a lot of expectations, but it just may be unrealistic to get through all these, because some of them are pretty significant, as you may have read.
Okay.
If I could, I'm Heidi's partner, Kathy.
Yes.
And we're team on the Caldwell account. Heidi's the day-to-day, I'm just, conferring. And we had a discussion with finance, and I think you need to prioritize. And I think in terms of keeping a general ledger and maintaining fixed asset records in a town, nothing's depreciated, it doesn't have any full impact, but you do want to know about your assets and how they can you know, be accounted for or walk out the door or something to that
Well,
effect.
absolutely. I mean, my concern just with what I do, knowing, I mean, this, without having any kind of fixed asset, you know, maintenance or tracking or anything, we could be buying computers that we don't know where they are. We could be buying cars that we don't know where they are. These things need to be accounted for.
Absolutely. So in a choice between a fixed asset accounting reporting, fixed asset accounting and a general ledger, definitely general ledger, a number one top priority. And then the list of recommendations, there's prioritizing, and Heidi and I both shook our head. You know, out of all those things, take the most critical things, the things that are procedure, that can be put in place easily. And then there's some housekeeping things where we say balances have to be reviewed and updated. You do that to your best of your ability, and, you know, the things that aren't critical and they're not gonna break the town, you'll get them out, and we'll be supportive.
Mark, can I ask a question based on the prioritization? Is there anything factoring, and I don't know if there are certain legalities that we have to have certain things in by certain periods of time? Are there actually fines that could be attributed to it? Does that even play into the equation? Or is it just based on us prioritizing as a basis?
Well, the priorities have already been established. We don't, Caldwell doesn't necessarily need to establish the priority. The general ledger is number one in the financial structure. Number two would be the fixed assets. Beyond just what the balance sheet shows, there are other cost factors associated with those fixed assets. Are they insured adequately? Are they even insured? Let's start there. So those are certainly my priorities going into the last quarter of the calendar year. In addition to that, I have set priorities to make sure that some of the things that are within this document, the last audit report for the borough, be cleaned up this year. Outstanding grant balances, things that whatever I can address. I have been able to establish a good working relationship with the few people that are remaining on the staff of the finance department. So now that the summer's coming to an end, we are going to be very busy in the month of September between the budget requests for the new calendar year, 2011, and getting everything done for the year end for another audit. So it is going to be a very intense time, and when you couple that with what happens in government in this last quarter of the year, you've got obviously the holiday month of December. Back into November, there's the League of Municipalities that interferes somewhat with government and, you know, things of that nature. So even though it's 3 months or 4 months, there's still those short work weeks that come into play. So there is, I address all that. I work from a date certain and backwards so that I can meet my target. So there are priorities.
If I can also, just on that, with what you just asked about accountability and anything, this is the actual local finance notice from the local government services from the state of New Jersey, which talks about exactly what is and isn't supposed to be in place. It does not actually list any type of consequences for not having this in place. But if I may, I would just like to read the conclusion, which is just a 2-sentence long from here, because I think this really describes what needs to be done and why. It basically says, the maintenance of a general ledger for all funds is an essential element of the local unit financial accounting system. With today's reliance on accurate and timely financial decisions, municipalities can no longer operate without a complete general ledger accounting system. And we don't have one. So
that's
from
what
the
Marge
state of
was
New
hired to
Jersey,
do.
this basically says this is something that has to be done, and it has to be done right away.
That was one of the essential things that you were hired to do. So,
That's it.
anybody else? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Murray?
Yes.
Councilman Hauser?
Yes.
Councilman Dassing?
Yes.
Councilman Slattery? Councilman Norton?
Yes.
Councilman Piazza?
Yes.
Adoption of the 2010 municipal budget. The open public portion, after that, the adoption